This podcast is sponsored by Vite Ramen. It's so easy, it's almost like cheating. Vite Ramen has been my Twitch sponsor for over half a year. So today, I'm sharing my process and making it my way. Today, I chose beef pho, or as I like to pronounce it, pho. I know. I clean the green onions, mushrooms, and then I cut them to size. Again, make sure to always clean your vegetables. I then put the seasoning package into my bowl, proceeded to pour in my 2 cups of water, and I bring to boil. Along that, I love salt, so I add some soy sauce. That's up to you. You don't have to if you don't want to. I then also put the cut onions and mushrooms into the pot. Once to a boil, I cook on high for about 4.5 minutes, but that is really up to you depending on how you like your noodles. I like them a little bit softer, and if you want al dente, just do it for a little bit shorter. Once the timer is done, I then pour directly into the soup bowl and stir in the seasoning package. Lastly, I pour in the aroma oils. That's it. There are different flavors for you to try, and you can also make your own recipes with their naked nudes. If you are interested in Vite Ramen, I'll have a link in the description with a 10% discount code, NGNG. This podcast is possible because of you. That is right, because of you. You make this possible by listening, by watching, and supporting me with your time. Some take it to the next level and toss support in the form of Twitch subs, tips, and patronage. And speaking of Patreon, let me thank all of my patrons for supporting me on that platform. For my passions and content creation, thank you. Huge shout out to my podcast sponsors on Patreon. Speaking of Chad, Crush Gaming, Jeffrey, and McJiggles, you 4 have been holding it down at the tippity top. So thank you guys. And of course, if you guys want to help support like the 88 other patrons and your fellow community members, you want to take it to the next level and consider becoming a patron today. Thank you guys so much. Oh, hello, sir.
Well, I thought Matt was joining you. I saw him in the waiting room.
Oh, you guys have to let me know because I don't have, usually have the...
Oh, I don't... Yeah.
Yeah. How are you doing, sir?
It's actually Matt's day off today.
Is this actually Matt? You're going to pretend to be Matt?
Yeah.
You have to say A lot.
I'm sick right now.
Oh, man.
Not COVID. Took a test.
No? Why not?
No.
You should just snort COVID from like a line on the bar. It's fun.
I feel like shit though, so I'm just I won't be in here long.
Was it your daughter brought it to you?
Of course, dude. Going back to school and instantly got sick. Dude, it's been 2 years since I've been sick. It's been 2 years since I've been sick. Like, oh my God.
It's been 2 years your immune system hasn't been tested by your daughter. And she's like, all right, here we go, Dad. You know. So how you doing, man? For everybody that's listening, this is Daeron Katz. He's the community manager. What other titles do you have over there? Lead beard?
I would say less community manager and more marketing, but yeah. Everybody's wearing all the hats.
Yeah. I'm Matt Newman, and so is my wife. I get it now. After death.
Real Matt Newman, please stand up.
So, yeah, man.
You all you've ever known is me sick, Ferret? What, you mean like sick in the head? That sickness.
Well, no, maybe he's confusing you. Your allergies back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
You used to like sound like.
I did have brutal allergies, but I also got sick all the time because my daughter was bringing shit home from school.
Have you had a
back to that?
You should tell her to stop. Doing that.
Stop rubbing yourself all over. Yeah. Whatever it is.
Licking the faucets and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah,
so
man.
I took major NyQuil last night, and that shit sticks in my system, man. I'm still like buzzed from it.
Are you one of those? It's so funny.
Oh,
yeah. Like
big time, dude. That shit knocks me the fuck out, and it totally affects me.
Yeah. Ferret's daughter gets him sick all the time.
Yeah, you know Ferret. You know what the fuck it's like, man.
Yeah. She's a monster.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh man. Yeah, man. I'm sorry you don't feel well.
So,
what's up with you? I'm just saying, I'm not home. I can't record stuff, and yet again, you guys.
Oh yeah, it's 100% intentional,
dude.
Man.
It's a dick move. I mean, it's good strategy. It's a dick move. you know.
So, are you soloing?
I am. Yeah, yeah.
I heard that's the best experience for
It's
the 8v8.
totally the best experience right now. Like, if you're gonna do it, it's the best.
Yeah.
Totally.
If you really, really want to enjoy it.
Yeah. I just I did a video on it really quick, just to and then post it up, because some people may not even know that you guys are doing it if they're not playing, and maybe save video. But yeah, obviously Matt's not here to answer directly, so I'm sure you guys will do a post-mortem.
Oh, we are.
Yeah. If you want to talk about it, feel free. But
yeah, I can. I just noticed something weird though. Wyrot in your chat this morning said he was having DNS issues at work and couldn't connect his VPN. We were too.
Yeah, I had it right when I started streaming. I couldn't go to the website, and when I would double click on the the MWO portal launcher, it had an error. And then I tried it three times.
We were having the same thing. We were having some kind of fucking. I think it's sorted now, but I couldn't log in this morning. And interesting. So what were you asking me about? I'm sorry, the 8v8.
No, I said if you want to talk about it, you can. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's just. I mean, we knew going in that the 4-man was going to be an issue, obviously, right? We could have switched it to two-person groups. However, there was an issue with faction play. We thought it might fuck up faction play. There's certain things, with code, you don't know what the end result was going to be, and we didn't want to throw it live and potentially fuck up faction play with it. And so, and we didn't want, basically, we already knew people were going to be worked up from the 8v8.
Yeah, I don't think
we didn't want to.
I don't think testing
also worked up on not being able to get 4 people or whatever.
And
so
don't mess with faction players. They're weird. They get all angsty.
Yeah, and so it was just for a few days. And also the last time the 8v8 thing happened with Paul, there was no data. We needed a little bit more data. Obviously, we're not getting ideal data because, again, groups and certain factors that aren't providing the best. But also another purpose was just to essentially throw a curveball out there, and part of that is, for the event queue that Matt is working on, and where we will just, flip a switch for a weekend or a day or whatever the situation is, and there'll be a strange event queue, whatever it might be, at that time. That's where Solaris will reside and so forth.
I have so many questions in this. So let's
I may not be the appropriate person to answer.
Yeah, you can,
really Matt's baby.
Yeah. You can tell me to fuck off.
Fuck off.
So,
go.
Okay, so what data are you guys collecting? I feel like that needs to look, man. Like I push back.
Search times.
Okay.
Like match search time. Okay, so. Remember, we're not just gathering feedback from the forums. Forums are on fire right now. I think we're up to 500 something.
Nice.
But we're also, Twitter, Facebook, and Discord. So we're gathering feedback from everywhere. The general result of this event is the majority don't like it, and the majority of the people that don't like it because of the 4-person group. So that was, we already knew that was going to be the case, but there were quite a lot of people that like it, not enough probably to justify it as a permanent change, especially if we're not dividing.
But isn't that
solos and
isn't
groups.
That a problem? But look, I have no problem with you guys testing AV8. But I look at this, and this isn't a test of AV8. This is a test of you guys were collecting data behind the scenes. If you guys would have just said, "Hey guys, we're gonna test AV8 for this weekend. We're going to test how quick matches are kicking off."
In terms of not announcing it, yes, we absolutely should have given earlier warning. The reason why it happened like it was is because originally we were going to do it a different weekend further down the line.
Sure.
And we kind of just decided, looking at the roadmap and what things we were doing over the next month or two, Matt decided, hey, let's do it.
This is the best time. Okay, so that being said, my only issue with it is, if you're going to actually do a test with, you guys have to make the decision. I know you can talk to the Cauldron and the community as far as
Well, also, I want to get out there. This has nothing to do with Cauldron. Cauldron had nothing to do with this. They didn't know what was happening. They were as surprised as everybody else. So
well, what I'm saying is get them involved as far as you need to. You and Matt are make the callers on this. What is quick play supposed to be? And if it's soup queue, if you're keeping solos and groups, do you want it to be fair and balanced as best you can? And I'm saying that more of just the discussion of like, do you keep it fair and balanced? Or are you more towards like, yeah, you know what? Look, there may be imbalances with having 4-man groups in 12v12 or 8v8, whatever. But
there are nobody's.
But what I'm saying is, what end of the spectrum do you guys want quick play to be in? And then basically that's what we should be testing in like an 8v8 test is like, okay, so you're wanting to reduce groups down to 3. You need to reduce tonnage by, I don't know, 50% or whatever. Okay, you know, and then what about game modes adjustment, you know, cap points being pulled in or moved around and, you know.
But here's the thing. Yeah. So it wasn't an ideal test in terms of what we were able to pre-configure. Again, we had issues. There were things that we didn't have the resources to tweak certain things, and we had concerns with the things that we, like I said, reducing the group size down to 2, and so we couldn't do it. So was it a less than ideal test? Absolutely. But did we get data that we are still going to be able to use? Absolutely. Like, for example, match searching times, match play times, you know, and
you can compare those.
Reading back through all the feedback, we see the things that people don't like and we see the things that people do like. So while, again, not ideal, still able to get some useful information out of it.
I guess my concern would be not necessarily you or PGI. It would be if you rolled in this week and you had no idea, and next thing you know, you're dropping an 8v8 and you've been getting your shit kicked in by like 4-man groups that were testing it, by the way, because they're like, oh, okay. That's going to leave a sour test. And they're like, yeah, I fucking hate 8v8. Why would you do that? So, and because it's, you know, like it's construed, right? Because they didn't get the, oh, well, you might make actual adjustments to groups. Oh, you might make tonnage. So my experience, I guess that's I mean, me and you agree on so many of these things when, you know, I didn't.
When we did it, we posted information. Now, obviously, not everybody goes to the forum, but look in your chat. You know, I don't know if Ridden is being sarcastic or not, but that's the thing. We get people messaging us saying, I fucking love 8v8, don't switch it back. Now, obviously, we are switching it back. It wasn't a permanent thing. You know, we're trying to take into as much account for everybody's opinion as possible and make decisions based on that. Of course, we know the things that, you know, that you're talking about. We're aware of group size and other variables that we could change, and we're still looking at the possibility of separating group and solos. But again, there's so many things that depend on it. Player population, blah, blah, blah. So it's just, while it wasn't ideal, and while we didn't launch it ideally in terms of letting people know, you know, a week ahead of time or whatever we were going to do, we still were able to get data. It was still only 5 days. It's gone tomorrow.
So I guess where
the people that are suffering, they'll be fine after tomorrow.
I guess what I'm saying is, like, I saw this post. Me personally, when I saw this post, I didn't read this as, oh, we're testing 8v8 like serious mode. I thought this was more of, this is specifically for like the event queue, and it just so happens and we had to turn it on. So like maybe it's
all of the above.
All of the above. Okay.
But we're not, it wasn't, obviously, again, since it wasn't ideal, I can't say it was like serious test mode, serious data, because there's more additional data that we would have loved to have gotten if we could have had the resources to make the change that we needed for it. So I'll say it's more like casual data, you know, is basically, you know, because we couldn't do it the way we wanted to. And oftentimes I've found out over the last 2 years, you know, there's different levels of what you're able to achieve. And what we kind of do is we always shoot for the stars and hope that we hit the moon. And sometimes we don't make it out of orbit, but, or out of the atmosphere. So it's just, you know, I have to temper myself, and
that's good.
Sometimes things are going to fall short.
That's why I'm asking you these questions, because when you talk about, hey, we're looking at data, okay, you're talking about the data, what you're looking for. So the cool thing is, you guys will now be able to compare how quick matches were kicking off prior to with 12v12.
Well, absolutely, and overwhelmingly, that's the one thing that we're seeing people say is that matches are. getting kicked off quicker. Now, I don't have the data yet, so I'm just going by
that's anecdotal.
What people are saying. Yeah.
Well, anecdotally, I never really had problems with 12v12 at all hours, but also I'm not an Aussie at off times
I know.
and stuff like that.
I didn't either. You know, I've never thought, you know, some people call it search warrior or whatever. I've never had that issue so much, or again, maybe I'm just, you know, a little bit more patient than others, but it's still
it's a valid thing.
Quicker. We'll find out.
It's about, well, and I mean, we've talked about this I was talking about this earlier, which is I'm not for or against 8v8, but I think a lot of people that bring up 8v8, it doesn't the money to change it has nothing to do with 8v8. For instance, I made this comment literally earlier, but I'll reiterate. If you were to say, I want 8v8 because queue times will be shorter. That's anecdotal because you don't actually have information, but it makes sense from the math perspective. And I know I've talked to Jay-Z, he's made posts and stuff back then, right? That's anecdotal, and that's something you can compare. If you were to say, I want 8v8 because there will be less stomps, I push back on that and say, no, that's anecdotal. You actually don't know if that's actually true or not. And because that's where someone's conflating 12v12 and 8v8 with match quality, right? And you can't do that.
Well, and you know that, and we all know that match quality from day to day can be different. So while some big person, say one person out there, a solo player, is experiencing the worst matches of their life, there's also somebody on the flip side, a solo player, who's experiencing the best matches of their life. And so that's one that's experiencing the worst matches is going to go and say, this mode sucks. This is what I'm experiencing, and that's the way it is. And you know, whenever I'm reading those, I'm like, well, there's somebody winning every time, you know, like.
Well, how many times do you hop in a match and I'll be like, hey guys, you guys ready to do this? And someone's like, I've just lost 10 matches in a row. And I'm like, I can't imagine losing 10 matches in a row.
I know.
But that's now, whether they actually lost 10 matches in a row,
and so,
or or like,
I will say this, what some people say out loud is not true.
What?
Because we can track that shit, you know? Yeah. I mean, you've known that from back in the day, right?
Yeah, back in the day. If you do this, I'm not going to play again. Proceeds to play 1,000 matches in like a week. Okay, so obviously data. Thank you for clarifying that. I've said this recently. I mean, you and Matt are doing the best you can. If you would have been able to do exactly what I was talking about, you would have. But so work with it.
McLean, I want to address this one.
Sure.
McLean is saying, check the data for the impact that surprises are having on the population. Absolutely none. That's what the impact was from this event. We're at a point, I think, with the player population that the people that are here are here. You know, it's just we're down to kind of like the hardcore Mechwarrior fans that, while they're extremely passionate, they like the game that exists and they're playing. So I can literally check in hour to hour and see what our player pop is, and there was no impact. So now, if you read the forums, there should have been an impact, right? Because everybody was saying, well, I'll see you in a week or see you in 2 weeks, or that's it for me.
But I think what you see there,
thing comes in.
I think where you see there is this is such like priority, like matchmaker and match quality has been on the forefront of the discussions. And so when you have 559 comments on this, it's because people give a damn. And now I don't know, again,
there's no indifference, man. It's passionate. They either hate it or love it.
But that's where I'm saying is I feel like it's very important for these kind of discussions to distinguish 8v8 and factual information versus 12v12, and 8v8 and 12v12 anecdotal information, and like how some don't necessarily overlap and how some do. Because again, how many times have I seen it where 8v8 would result in less stomps, and I'm like, that is factually incorrect. It's like, that's not how that works. Again, it could be, in my opinion, like I enjoy 8v8 more. I feel like I have a bigger impact. Well, of course, analytically you do. You lose a mech, it's a bigger impact than 12v12 as well. If you kill an enemy mech, it's got a bigger impact statistically, percentagely, more as well. So there are things. Let me ask you, data collection. One of the biggest issues back in the day, and since I remember the Cauldron was asking about information too, which was data and collection of data. Has that improved at all behind the scenes as far as your guys being able to collect more information about matches? Because that wasn't built into the system.
No, we've been having Jamie, the web guy, and Colin, our database guy, building more and more tools for that. So we've been slowly improving our data collection and method. Basically, there's stuff that didn't exist when we were doing NGNG with PGI that does exist now. So yeah, we're increasing the number of tools that we have and the effectiveness of the data collecting tools that we have and so forth. And yes, Puglord, there was an uptick over the weekend, but there's an uptick every weekend. Basically, in terms of numbers this weekend, it wasn't any different really from any other weekend.
Yeah,
there's always an uptick around Friday and last weekend.
I think you would have if you would have given a week ahead of time. I'm not saying just for me, but like being able to get the word out on Reddit and social media and YouTube and stuff and said, hey guys, there's an 8v8 test coming. There's group changes coming, get excited. Like, I think that would have,
the only thing, yeah,
that would have altered the numbers because I do think people would have came back, but it wouldn't have gave you organic sort of sense of like, oh, this was just dropped on you. Was there any difference and stuff?
I mean, we're still in a lot of ways riding by the seat of our pants, and we're just kind of, could this have been more ideal? Yes.
Sure.
We recognize that.
That's fine.
100%.
Yeah.
It's just, we're doing the best we can with the, again, same thing I always say, with the resources we have and the time, and we're working our asses off trying to make all kinds of things come together, and sometimes we fuck up.
Well, and look, I think I need you and Matt to stop apologizing, because I don't think it adds anything, because you are doing the best you can. I can admit that.
No, I know. When I started saying that, I'm like, fuck, don't say that again.
Well, what I'm saying is you don't need to, you're doing what you can. Now, I understand, like, every once in a while you have to explain to people, like, hey, we need more resources. We don't have the resources, so this is the best we can. I get that. But you don't need to apologize to me. That's why I'm asking you questions specifically about, like, what is the data you're collecting? What is your... Now, you mentioned event queue. I've got so many questions because...
I wish Matt were here.
No. Just in the like, someone has said that you and Matt were in, like, Nutty and a few other streamers chat. I was, again, gone. I couldn't do that. They mentioned Solaris, and do you have any, like, official or, like, information on that?
Essentially, we're going to be removing Solaris as its own separate queue, and it will reside in the event queue. That's not going to happen to faction play. Faction play is going to remain. At least that's where we're at right now.
Okay.
Faction play is going to remain its own thing, and I'm actually working on a faction play solution to make faction play more engaging and more fun and more akin to what kind of we wanted back in the day. Now that I'm super limited with the resources that I have available to me, and I'm building a design right now, working with the people that we do have to kind of to do something that I would be excited about. So I'm hoping everybody else is excited about it as well. So, I'm working on that. Can't get into much detail on that.
So
right
Solaris,
now. The event
Solaris
queue,
go, and then event queue. You were saying it would be a different.
It would reside in the event queue. Yeah. Okay. So event queue is going to be a separate queue. We're going to drop Solaris. We'll have the event queue tab up there. It won't be active 24/7, 7 days a week.
Okay.
It will be when there's a special event, and so it could be a weekend event. It
I like
could be
that.
A week-long event. It could be a day event.
Good. Okay.
I
like that.
Be something. Yep, and it'll be. We're looking at all kinds of modifiers that we can do. We can make it so it's light mechs only. Meaning, it could be by weight class. It could be by weapons. It can be stock mode. It can be. We're looking at all the variables that we can tweak to make special events that are just fucking, like Paul used to do that kind of shit. We talked about it before. And that's where Solaris will reside. So instead of Solaris being 24/7 in all the divisions, it'll be like, okay, this weekend we're doing Division 4, or whatever in Solaris. And so there'll be more population, more meaning, more fun for that type of thing. That's our hope anyway. So yeah, that's really Matt's baby. And I think it's going to add a lot of fun and variety to something that we've been playing.
So that's what I thought this was. I thought it was a test of that, being able to just so you're saying
sort of is.
You're saying, like,
but it also
on the screen here, instead of Solaris being up here, you'll have a event event, and it'll flash when it's active, and you'll have a post of the event queues going on, medium lasers only, machine guns only, whatever the hell you want to do in it.
We're looking at things like no gravity, you know, Paul used to do that or whatever. We're looking at everything, trying to figure out which ones make sense, which ones don't make sense.
Sure.
But we'll basically have a big selection of modifiers that we're able to tweak for special events. As well as, it doesn't have to just be some weird thing, you know, like an Urby Derby, which we can do. We can say all urban mechs or whatever. But it can be, again, like just a Solaris weekend, you know, or week or whatever. We could do a Solaris tournament, you know, like there's things that we can do with it to make it quite a fun tool.
I like it that it's not 24/7, because I feel like that was a mistake with Solaris. Well, there's a lot of mistakes with Solaris.
Absolutely, that was what. Yeah.
But you get burnt out on it. You know, it's like, hey, it should be this like cool thing where you have a weekend, or hey, Wednesday, hump day or whatever, and you do something.
Yeah, low gravity, not no gravity. Good point.
Yeah,
don't need mechs flying off to the.
Okay, so that's obviously good to hear. Faction play, you said you guys are working on something.
I am.
You're trying to. I mean, me and you we've talked literally for countless hours on this, and
well, we came from
Living Legends, yeah.
Living Legends.
Yeah.
That was, you know, we were now. A lot of that was self-organized, right? But we were having a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. Me and you, Wolf in Exile, when we did the competition, and we were doing the Shadow Cats. Yeah.
So I mean, essentially, I'm trying to get that same high that you know or that came from me, World of Tanks, Clan Wars, that kind of thing, where you're grouping. There's politics involved. There's meaning. There's rewards for doing well. That's the kind of shit I'm trying to bring in. You know, to make it more engaging and more what we wanted back in the day.
Yeah.
Obviously, I can't overhaul it, you know, and make it Living Legends, but I'm going to do the best that I can to make it more fun, more engaging, more rewarding, that kind of thing.
Well, I think it comes down to just the game, your main game mode. I mean, because really that's what we're talking about. Whereas instead of Assault or whatever, I mean, you see the respawns and the regular quick play maps. It's really popular. Now you can imagine, again, you guys have all the tools. The only thing that isn't in game for that game mode, the Conquest, you know, is respawns. You have drop decks, but then you'd have to come up with something unique with that. And then the mech repair base. I mean, you already have turrets. You know, you have the cap points and stuff that you can do, just like the Living Legends.
We have some tools at our disposal, and yeah, I'm working with people to try and figure out the best way to implement it, and get the help that I need to whatever needs to be set up. As soon as I know more, I will definitely be bringing it to.
The reason I bring that up is like from the group perspective of, if you're gonna, I still feel like regardless of your decision, whether 12v12, 8v8, if you go 8v8, I do feel like you have a lot of work to do, because you have like I said, the spawn points, which need to be worked on across a lot of the maps. But the game modes, like even Conquest, some of those maps, the Conquest points need to be, you know, closer, because again, you spread people way too thin 8v8 versus 12v12. But if you do 12v12 and you keep 12v12, I still feel like that discussion of groups still needs to happen. 8v8, I think, is just so apparent when it's like 50% of your team can be a group. And even if it's not 50%, even if it's like 3 of the mechs, I mean, you take 3 good players. I mean, you know.
Oh, I know. I've been watching.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's and I knew, again, we knew that, right? Yeah. Yes. I at this point, my instinct, my gut is telling me we're not going to be switching to 8v8. I think it'll still remain something that, you know, happens in the special events, maybe even 4v4s happen in the event queue. I wouldn't be concerned at this point that quick play is going to change. That being said, if we can solve the other issues that go along with switching to 8v8, we might consider it, but still it'd be part of a discussion. We're not going to just, you wake up one day and quick play switch to 8v8 with 4-man groups and nothing you can do about it. We're not going to fucking do that. So yeah, I at this point, my feeling is that quick play will probably remain 12v12. The other thing is how much the faction play stuff sticks. Like if that becomes kind of an avenue for the groups more, and and it picks up and people are the group kind of thing is moving there, then again we could come back and look at quick play and the potential for removing groups. But at this point, it's just going to revert back to normal tomorrow.
How quick, for instance, for the group size and tonnage limits, is that an easy thing for you guys to be able to experiment with? Like
I think that,
like for groups,
for quick
right?
play?
Yeah, quick play. Like, could you say, hey, you know what, for the month of
I don't know if
April,
it's just an XML change. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think it is, because that was part, again,
that was
you know,
part of the
Matt's
promise.
talking with Windover and stuff like that, right? And so I think that was part of the issue, is that changing groups to two-man groups max potentially had knock-on effects that we were gonna.
We'll tell Windover to go do it
deal with.
himself, or I'll just come up there and beat him up. I mean, he's a girly man.
Just had a, when I said I was in a meeting this morning, that's who we were talking with.
Tell him I'm talking
And,
shit. Be like, what's he gonna do?
Everybody at PJ
Buy me a
knows
drink?
talking shit, but,
Say yes.
but anyway, that was the issue.
Okay. I think there are, the event queue is interesting, because I do think you can have a lot of fun, but I do feel like priority wise, everybody is concerned with matchmaker. And I think you guys are limited on what you can do with the population of what, you know, for instance, tier 1 through 5 or whatever. I mean, you already, if you're limiting a tier 1 to be able to drop in tier 5, that's already good, right? So, I mean, my point being is expectations of players, I think usually it comes down to the outcome and control of the match. And I've said this for years, that having a 4-man with X amount of tonnage, I would still like to see you guys allow multiple groups of 3, 2, 1-mans, or even 2-mans, and solos in the soup. So instead of it just limiting to one, because sometimes you do have 2 groups. Sometimes there'll be a 3 and a 2-man. I'm just saying, I think it'd be an interesting thing to just open it up and say, hey, there's 2 to 3-man groups and solos together. And that way it's a little bit of a group with solos mixed in. And you go forth, and then you can bring down the tonnage for the 3-mans, or
Yeah. So what I will say is, in terms, like, okay, first of all, we're tweaking things right now in terms of match score, and which I'm not going to get into detail about right now because I can't. And we're also the matchmaker, we're super aware of the issues people are having, the kind of matches that are coming up that are extremely lopsided, and basically we can't dig in really into, or we're not going to dig into matchmaker until we are working on this event queue, which is what's happening now. So basically matchmaker is something that we are looking at. We're super aware of the matchmaker issues. We're digging into, so again, like I said, we're digging into match score and matchmaker, but it's kind of like exploratory, and we have our hopes and wishes and dreams, and we're working with the engineers right now to kind of we're examining it and figuring out what is doable and what's not doable,
and what's going to take a lot of work, what's lower hanging fruit. Yeah.
I mean, it's basically, we have resources available for a certain amount of time, so we're trying to maximize the productivity and make sure that we're prioritizing the right things first. And so, but we're super aware. I see the lopsided matches where, you know, tonnage is way off, and teams and skill and all that shit. Yeah, we need to tighten up.
Well, and sometimes we don't know, though. I would say, and that was one of the things I remember on one of the Cauldron talks, is like, we didn't have the data. So like, if you're a tier 1 player and you're dropping, and you're, you know, whether me and Magic have talked about this, like, we needed the data to make an informed decision, because like, it may be very well that the percentage of games that population plays versus the rest has a different outcome. Like, for instance, they may see more stomps, or anecdotally more stomps, or they feel like they win the majority of the time, or group. Well, what's the actual data behind that? Is there a win-loss ratio between tiers, groups, solos, and how does that all play out? And like, that was one thing we just didn't have the information on. So all you were doing is sort of just hypothetic, hypothesizing that word, Jesus. At that point. And so, yes, you could probably...
No, we have better data collecting methods now. I'm not a data scientist, so it's, obviously it's taken other people to get the data for us and present it in a way that Matt and I, simple minds like us, can understand. But yeah, we have way better data collecting methods now, and we're working with that data. But yeah, Matchmaker's huge. I mean, we're totally aware.
Because you shore up a few things in Matchmaker.
It's on the chopping block.
And then you have an event system that's just sort of fun. I've said this from the beginning. If you guys get anything close to the Living Legends sort of, and I say it's a conquest game mode with respawns. That's what it is, right? And then it has some type of economy that allows you to, if you do really good, you move up in your purchase ability, and if you don't, to me though,
you understand though that what you just described.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's a huge.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm sort of thinking is again, you know,
that's a lot of development there.
Yeah, I mean, but you could probably adapt some of it. Whereas
that's what I'm looking at is what can I take that's available to me now and do some tweaks and
because you could you do reverse cap points and use cap points almost, and I'm saying points in the numerical is as you earn cap points, or it helps speed things, ticks down or ticks up, or you can or vice versa, your performance based on Matchmaker. Then you could there's a lot of things you could do. It's just what's
and also there might be things that are stages, right? So I might implement some kind of update faction play, hopefully doing the things like I said, making it more engaging, more fun, more meaningful. And then there may be a second stage where, based on performance and availability in terms of resources, people, programmers, we're still talking to Koku literally every week. So it's crazy, and I've learned to temper again my emotions because it's too much for me. But there's still so much that could potentially happen. I'm just kind of trying to keep my emotions at bay and just do my work every day and move forward and have my goals, and what comes will come, and I'm hoping for the best, but certainly we both loved Living Legends and that kind of gameplay, so it's on my mind all the time as I'm working on faction play right now.
Gotcha. Outside of that, I mean, let me see if there's a few questions from everybody out there, just because I potentially don't want to miss anything here. So you mentioned obviously resources, roadmap. So this is some of the things that will you be adding some of this information to your roadmap?
Yes,
obviously you are doing an event queue, it seems like. So are you going to be adding?
Well, I'll tell you something. I don't know if it's on the roadmap. I haven't checked lately, but for example, color coding the quirks, that's happening. So when you look at now that's just a quality of life thing. Obviously, it's not a huge deal, but I don't know if that's on the roadmap. I don't think it is.
It was not.
Yeah, so that's something that's gonna be nice. So because we have so many fucking quirks now, and where are they coming from, and you'll be able to see what's coming from the skill tree, what's the base quirks on the mech. So that'll be a little nicer. But yeah, there's things that are being worked on that aren't on the roadmap because we're super gun shy about saying stuff that we aren't 150% positive on yet. Things have been going one way and then they kind of reverse, and so and then they'll reverse again or whatever. So we're just trying to be more cautious with the communication. Again, we want to under promise and over deliver rather than the opposite.
Well, that's one of the double-edged swords, right? Which is
yes, it's an absolute double-edged sword.
Which is,
and I get cut on it all the time.
I agree with you. I think it's better not to overcommit, but on the flip side, if that means you just can't commit to anything, i.e. the roadmap, when I did the video, it leaves you going,
I know, right?
Is there even anything here? What are we, your secrets? And also,
tell me about it, man.
Can I push back? I'll say it for everybody out here. The secrets things, man, needs to go. This whole thing, look, Russ pointed this out on Twitter. He said
secrets thing?
No, yeah, because he said he basically was like, this game's been going like 10 plus years, like it's still kicking, we're still developing. It's like, yeah, because you don't need secrets anymore. Like that time of like, it's not like everybody's under NDA, like it's in closed beta, you know, and you don't want to, it's like,
secrets,
hey man.
Like what? What are you referring to?
Oh, secret. You guys are working on secret data. There's secret stuff being worked on.
All that's really saying is that we're working on more, but we're not communicating it because it's not been confirmed.
I don't like the word. All right, it's like, guys, come on. Who are we kidding here? Like, can we? You know.
I don't know. I can't. I can't make any other people use other words, but. I mean, that's all it is that we're working on more than we revealed on the roadmap. And until we have some sort of confirmation that we have the resources to make it happen, we're not going to get people excited about it, because then we shit if it doesn't happen. So it is a double-edged sword. And Yeah.
You're doing the best you can. I mean, like I said, you don't have to apologize for it. And I think it would probably behoove you and Matt to really try to work on that. I understand from a company perspective, you have to put out the PR and all that, but from like these conversations, I don't need you to apologize. I just get to the, like I don't,
I'm half Canadian, even though I live in the U.S. though, so it's hard to fight the apology. Don't hanging out with Matt every day has made me say sorry.
No, you gotta fight that urge.
There's a question for me, Daeron. If possible, do something to find. Oh yeah. I mean, that's a big quality of life thing, right? I absolutely agree with that.
It's never happening. It's never happening.
Old Bob from the podcast, whatever it is, he's been asking that for a long time. I know, man. I know.
That's never gonna
happen. I have shit on I'll say it. I have no idea where it is.
Like you're a Hulu girl? Like, I don't know where she is.
Yeah, dude, there's certain ones that I use, and then I'm out, and I don't know what mech it's on. I've got 600 mechs, like, forget trying to find that.
Yeah. That's how I look at it.
How many of you go to your favorite mechs? You're like, it's got to be there. But anyway, yeah, dude, I hear you. I totally hear you. In terms of priority, I mean, I'm going to be honest, that's not at the top of the list for sure, because we're trying to do the things that are going to have the biggest impact in terms of.
What do you, speaking of, so are you looking at the biggest impact being obviously matchmaker and groups balance, event queue, and faction play? That it looks like those are your big ticket items.
The pillars. Yeah, I would say that's true. I mean, what we're trying to do is establish, changes that are going to make Mechwarrior Online viable for a few years at least, still to come. For the people that want to keep playing it, we're trying to make as many changes and updates as we can in the time that we have, with the resources that we have, to extend the life of MWO for as long as possible. That would be, and by extending it, making it more fun. That's what would be the extending catalyst or whatever, making it more engaging, making it more fun. So that's basically the goal. And it's more like we're just thinking what's long-term going to make it more fun, that's also doable. Obviously, people go, well, build it in Unreal 5. That would make it more fun, obviously, but we can't do that. So we have to be realistic, ultra realistic in our goals.
And again, if you guys have questions, feel free to hit up Daeron. Obviously, patch notes just came out, new map. Let's see. What did you guys name it? Vitric, whatever. I like Hellebore Springs. I know a lot of people don't, but I like the new map. It's been a mixed bag for some, but I've actually really enjoyed the matches there. Emerald Vale.
Emerald Vale, thank you. I couldn't think of it either.
Is hella boring springs if you don't have jump jets. I like it, man. I think it's but I've had really good matches there.
Yeah, I mean, I think Emerald Vale looks interesting. I've always liked that biome. So, you know, I have no idea. There's some people who've already determined that the map's dead because it's just going to be a sniper's paradise.
That's what they always say.
You know, there's two raised paths on each side or whatever that look down into the valley. But I don't know. I've seen since day one people call things and be wrong. So I have no idea how this is going to play out. I don't know if it'll be a sniper fest or if there'll be brawling involved. I feel like Francois and the Cauldron have really looked at it, are really looking at it to try and make it as fun and fair for everybody as possible. But we shall see. You know, that's one of the things about doing these maps is we really don't know how they're going to play out until they release to some extent. I mean, there's a lot of eyes. It's not like Francois is in a vacuum just creating these things off of whims, you know? I mean, there's a lot of people that are, you know, working with him on the development of the maps. I guess for some people that's actually the cause of, like, you know, they think that the Cauldron only wants to snipe or whatever. But I don't feel like that's really the result.
Well, I don't. As far as, like, I think some of that's just frustration from different demographics, whether you're solo or group. For instance, again, going back to the if you're in a 12v12 when HPG just got reworked, I really like the new HPG, but when it first came out, you have everybody and their mother in groups testing how valid it is. And so outside of, you know, like when you move outside of that now, like, yeah, it could be a really strong position, but you can also hose your team if you have one or two people up there and you bring the fight to somewhere else. So it's just one of those things where sometimes noise is noise, frustration is frustration, but I don't think there's a consensus on even the new map. For me, I think I've had really, I mean, except for terrain popping, I think for me, or hitboxes, I think hitboxes on the map, you know, so it'd be cool to see that, like, nipped and tucked a little bit and him fix up some of that. But
and if anybody finds map issues, you know, via support or whatever channel you have, send him Francois. He's constantly looking at doing little fixes on maps. So if you find those spots, send him in. I guarantee he looks at them and works on them. Every patch, there's little adjustments to all the maps that he's done recently. So we haven't stopped iterating on the maps that we're releasing.
I mean, you know.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of maps and mechs, I'm pretty excited for the year. But, you know, to me also, that's one side of the coin and not necessarily the most important side. The other side of the coin is development and you know, advancing the game play and so forth. So and to Matt and I, absolutely cannot have one without the other. So that's what we're always pushing on, is more development, more functionality, more improvements to quality of life, etc., etc.
Let's see if we have any other questions about HPG. I found unlivable stops on ramps with that map.
We also have been, I think this patch, in fact, I think it's going to be this patch. I should have, yeah, there's a couple things I think I still need to add to the patch notes. The lighting on a lot of maps weren't drastically changed, but there was an element that was missing from some of the maps that made it so, for example, if you were standing in shade, your mech just looked black.
It's a point lighting, yeah. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
And so I don't know the technical term because I'm sick and my brain's not working because I'm on NyQuil, but whatever it is, it was missing from quite a lot of maps, and Francois has been fixing that. So I won't say that there's going to be drastic lighting changes like there was with the Forest Colony Classic light change, but
I just went to the wrong map.
The maps will look better. The mechs will look better because of this fix that Francois did do about 10 maps or more. So lighting will be better in maps. It'll make the reason we discovered it was because of the platinum mechs. We take the platinum mechs on certain maps and they just look like shit. And we're like, what's going on here? And so figured that out.
And so he's going
Francois
in there.
Did.
I was gonna say pop in a classic. Here we go. I'd like to see Forest Colony Classic, the trees updated on it, so they're collision meshes.
Yeah, I think Nicholson has been working on that, or he's the one that does that, but he's so swamped right now with mech work. But yeah, I know.
Speaking of, you said you guys had engineer resources. How are other resources looking right now? Is that something that, like, is he getting help? Or
yes,
is he having to do...
Mark has been getting help, and so it will end shortly. But we had some art resources available for a while that contributed to helping Mark for sure. He needs it. Mark is swamped all the time. He's our single art guy doing all the fucking mech work. It's a lot of work, and so he's always stressed and always overwhelmed. But there's some pretty exciting mechs in my opinion coming out.
I remember watching the footage of, I mean, because this was really the first map. You know, I remember you went to
yeah, remember
GDC, covered it,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do suggestions on the forums get read or too many?
Yes, everything. In fact, one of the customer service reps, so when somebody sends in suggestions to, I'm just letting you know that your messages are being read. If somebody sends in messages to support at MWO Mercs, I have a huge thread of every single one of those, and I read them daily. I'll get an email that shows the latest suggestions. There's that. The forum messages get read. We have moderators that help us with that as well. Everything gets read. What we can't do is address everything, obviously, individually. So what we look for are patterns. So if like a bunch of people are saying something, then we, that typically gets more attention. Whereas, sometimes things that are just like one person's experience, anecdotal, whatever, I'll read it, I'll hear it, but I just kind of file it away and wait to hear, more. Because basically we can't develop based on everybody's, individual wishes.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Have some
it's
sort
not
of
realistic.
direction and goal. Yeah.
I was actually checking out the, because the lighting changed. It went back to the lighter, because for a period of time, this map got turned into brown haze. Same thing happened back in River City back in the day. It was like this weird shift where, I don't know if it was like the culture and like gaming development, like everything turned into like this weird haze. And yeah, like you used to not even be able to see in here.
A new tool.
Yeah, like now you can actually see in here. Like,
yeah, you can pretty much, I think, from spawns you can see straight across, which we, was the way it was when it first launched. And God, that cave! I've been in that cave in a gazillion years.
Yeah.
I never go cave anymore. We used to always go cave. Anyway.
It's not to change. Yeah, we just yeah, the weight class, so the game used to actually be based on weight class instead of tonnage for groups, and there's pros and cons to it.
Yeah, Luscious. I mean, I think people learned back in the day, where to shoot, and it was pretty crystal clear across the map. So I think that's one part of the reason why certain things were done to change the lighting, change the view, filters, etc.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that was changed. I mean, this particular map was the reason why really airstrikes and artillery happened, was because
to get people moving. Yeah,
but then the game, because this is an asymmetrical map, and so you have power positions. You had the hill, literally Tower Hill, that could engage anybody over here, anybody in water, so you could cut out that. The one thing you really had to worry about, but you could counter, was again going tunnel. And so back in the day, you'd have entire teams just sit up here, and so it didn't force any movement. Now, obviously, Conquest, but the problem with Conquest is because of this position, if you have long-range weapons, you can hose people trying to get those caps. So it's like it's a no factor. So this is really the difficulty with making arena-style maps for MWO, is you have to be very well. First off, let's be very honest. You have to understand gameplay. Like you know, like you have to understand like line of sight. Okay, so if they can sit up here and snipe, how does it help a light trying to cap at the very beginning, or you know, and so forth. So yeah, they it looks cool, but it definitely has this ability on this map to be one-sided because of that hill. And it would have been interesting if they would have like countered and had another hill. Yeah, so still remember when your dragon got stuck on terrain in that cave for half the match when I was finally emerged. I was very, very angry. Fishy, I asked Daeron about that earlier. He said they expected that to happen. That was one of the things they were expecting to happen. But that they're gathering data on like match length, match time, how to quickly define match.
We're not gathering all the data that we could have, obviously, because we couldn't tweak everything that we wanted to, but we are still able to gather some data, and we will. And it, you know, and also it was again a way to kind of hint at, tip our hat towards the, you know, the fact that we're working on the event queue system. So you know, again, we knew there would be some potential issues, and you know, people upset with it or whatever. But again, for the most part, or not for the most part, the numbers didn't change from any other weekend.
Yeah, I brought that up earlier, Fishy. Yeah, that was my main concern, is like if you're casual and you have a, you know, if you're like, hey, I'm just not going to play for the rest of the weekend because you just kept getting stomped. I mean, I think that's, you know, that would be the negative side I would see to it. But that's why I was asking Daeron at the very beginning those questions, because I needed to know, like, what were you actually gathering, and basically like, hey, you knew there was going to be issues, you know, moving forward. Because I think
let me ask you this, Mobolts, did you have a good weekend?
You just
like I logged
get off the computer,
walked away for the weekend, and I had a great weekend. So you know, like again, like I said, our numbers didn't change. It was a typical weekend in terms of player numbers. A lot of people saying that they were seeing 2 weeks or whatever, but I think that's just people.
Well, I think this just emphasizes how, you know, lopsided it can be with.
Look at Vlad.
You know,
look at what Vlad
groups.
just said. You know. That's the funny thing, is I don't think mech warriors understand how much they don't agree.
Well, here's the thing: is like, okay, let's break this down. Vlad, was he in a group? Was he solo? What tier is he? What time line, or what time zone was he in? Why did he find it funner? So it's just
Ferret,
one of those.
Shut up! Did you really reinstall Ferret?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, they were playing.
You did?
Yeah, they were playing.
So there, I'm going to tell Matt that he brought Ferret back. I mean, that's a huge deal, and so you know, that's success.
And that's where I just want the conversation to be very, like, I think people need to understand there's a difference of 8v8 and 12v12, but why are you looking at 8v8? Is it because of anecdotal information? Can we separate anecdotal from actual, just, you know, like statistics and facts? And then what are, because back in the day when all this was discussed, it's like the majority of people that were bringing up 8v8 as this like golden savior thing, there was stuff that I felt had nothing to do with it being 8v8. So
of course, right.
And that's where I feel like, hey, you make a change like this,
there's group size, there's matchmaker, there's all kinds of
and then
variables.
You think it's going to solve these, you think it's going to solve these things, but if anything, you know, you know, that's why it would be nice to have that discussion, as far as because I'm not pro or against 8v8 or 12v12. I have had no issues with 12v12, but I have had issues with group size, and that's me participating in groups as well, like, and everybody is saying it. So I feel like if you're gonna keep 12v12, going back to that earlier point, is I would like for testing to just open it up to multiple groups, have the groups down to 3 mans, reduce tonnage for those 3 mans, and allow soup to actually be soup. Because right now you get these the difficulty things, and I know I always bring up like JGX or any really good like comp team out there, but like their ability to control an outcome. So if you don't have a good group, and Matchmaker, because it doesn't have a double check system, doesn't know or can't because physically numbers or whatever, and it puts them up against another 3 or 4 man group, not all groups are equal. So now, you know, if you have multiple groups in there, at least then it potentially nullifies them with, you know, the average potential skill level of a group could potentially outweigh, you know, and it can work in the reverse though, just like how sometimes Matchmaker will drop me and Magic on the same team with a 4-man of, you know, 4 comp players, and it's like, what are you doing, Matchmaker, right? So I think those discussions, what I just said, have nothing to do with 12v12 or 8v8, you know.
Don't. Yeah,
and that's what's
there's things that overlap, obviously,
yes,
that have common issues, but they're separate.
Yeah. Now, like I said, if and I feel like this is very difficult because this gets in game design, which is if you're to say, Phil, we want to go 8v8 because of the damage output on the battlefield, that 100% is factual. That is true. There's 50% less mechs. Roger that. But that also fundamentally changes how the game is going to be played and what other adjustments. And this is why I was saying earlier is if you go 8v8, you have to make more adjustments because cap points and spawn points and what about group size?
Yeah, there's obviously the minor adjustments that need to be tuned if that's the case, and the definitely the vast majority of the complaints on this 8v8 weekend have been in regards to matchmaker issues and group size. So obviously if group size would have been 2 or no groups or you know, and matchmaker had some adjustments, then the data we would be receiving would be a lot different and a lot more useful potentially. But again, we were able to get, you know, or we will be able to get a lot of data from this just in terms of you know.
But I feel like it would be nice to hear what data did you get and why do you feel like that's important or relevant, because I think Fishy does have a point. Fishy, I that's why I brought up this earlier, exactly what you're talking about. Fishy is someone who had a bad experience. They may look at 8v8 and never want to touch it again. And my thing is, well, they actually didn't get a representation of what 8v8 should look like. And so what information, if any, and that's why I was trying to ask him earlier, Fishy, about what can you extrapolate? Well, from a data, you can see how quickly matches are kicking off. You could potentially see I don't know if you, I don't think you could look at win-loss because again, with groups being in there, I think that's going to be skewed. But you know, population and is it helpful? Because the reality of it is we do have a lower population, you know, in the game right now. So
for me,
oh, hello.
For me,
how did you get in here by yourself?
Magic.
I'm not allowed in here.
No. Phil brought me in. I just popped into one of the other rooms.
Hi, Matt.
Hey, how's it going? So, I think there's like 3 avenues to look at it, and one of them, for the key ones for me, is because I'm doing the event queue design and working with the engineers. A lot of things came up of like holes in the design that I needed to plug, variables that I wanted to be able to add, like, oh, you know, for the event mode queue, being able to limit group sizes separately than what you would have in quick play or faction play. Because one of the things was when it initially launched, I was like, oh, can we, you know, reduce the size of groups? And it's like, yeah, but you're reducing it for faction play as well. So event mode being its own separate thing, I want to be able to experiment in that queue and have things like, oh, it's, you know, Atlas only or medium mechs only, and really mess with the variables. And so this mode this weekend, one of the key things for me was just finding out what are the issues or what are the kind of holes I have to plug in the design of the event queue. So that is, for me, was one of the key things, and everyone's feedback on the forums and that kind of stuff. And then there's the other side of it, which is the actual data of, like, you know, matches and you know, groups and those kind of things, where we can look at what the outcome of the matches were and stuff like that, and how many people played, and like you're looking at numbers. And then there's just people's feelings about the whole thing. So you kind of get for me, we got a really broad spectrum of things to look at, and we just like once this is over, we'll be able to start looking at the data. And as anyone who's tried to go to the website this weekend knows, we also had some technical issues with our DNS server, so that kind of like shook things up a bit for us, because on Sunday it was like, oh shit, like everybody investigate what's going on, and then kind of realized it's out of our control, and we're just waiting for the host to resolve their issues, and they're still ongoing at the moment. And it's had a profound effect on our weekend and what that would have looked like for us, so we had to shift gears a little bit. But I still think that overall this was a positive thing. There's a lot of people's feedback in the forum. Some people really like it, some people don't like it, but what I got from it is like the event queue is going to be a good thing, because the people who like changing the mode up, the like getting different experiences, can actually go there and get that different experience, but we won't have to touch the main 12v12 quick play mode. And that's really been my
well, you missed a little bit of
all along
the discussion earlier, but
yeah, I just popped in late.
Yeah. So I think that's fine. Also, I told Daeron this earlier. You guys don't need to apologize to me on stream. Like, oh, we should have done it better. Like, let's just be very clear. I think you guys are doing the best you can. So no sorries for me, okay, man. That all being said, what was weird to me, and I brought this up to Daeron, was I didn't see that post being we're testing 8v8 for quick play, but you had little notes in there, like on your post it was like, well, let us know what you think about 8v8 versus 12v12. But it was like, oh, well, then we're collecting data. And it was like, to me, in the future, I would just say, hey, we're actually collecting data on match time and this and that, and just be very simple. I don't need any secrets. We're past that. And then also, like, if you just said like, hey, yeah, this isn't going to be perfect, but this is what we can do, I think that would have alleviated some. But here's the thing is like, the event queue, my concern with the event queue is is it sort of highlighting some of the things like, matchmaker right now and stuff, the attention going towards the queue right now. Like, I know a lot of people like priority, like your priority right now is event system. But I think what the feedback is saying is the priority of a lot of people is, hey man, like those things you're talking about, that the stuff that you just talked about, could we get that in regular quick play first instead of having then a separate queue? Or is this just you have to do both at the same time for the net result? Like adjusting matchmaker groups, that experience. And it seems to be like the number one priority across the board.
So yeah, I think that as we stated in the roadmap, is we looked at the resources we have available, a set amount of time, the features that we want to work on, and we have a couple things that we're working on that we're not talking about yet, and we're gonna hopefully do a devlog this week. And I hate saying that because I'm always afraid that we won't do it, but Daeron and I are trying to put one together, and we can talk about a few more things. I know the roadmap didn't really come across as like, oh, you guys aren't working on the games. Like, well, we totally are. It's just we're not being as committal as we once were, and we kind of swung the opposite direction of like, oh, now we're not telling you anything at all, but we're working on stuff behind the scenes. So I guess with what you're saying is like, oh, people really want this looked at, and it's like I'm not looking at the thing that people want looked at. And
I think it's highlighting that is the like you're even finding it even in your event queue, that all these things you're finding are the exact same things that people have been saying like, hey, could you pay attention to? I guess you're discovering the fact of like those are the things that people are talking about as far as like if you were to list like one priority, people would be like matchmaker, like whether you do 8v8 or 12v12, like I was mentioning earlier, I think are two separate things as far as like match quality. But like matchmaker is and has been, I would say, the number one thing like that's popped in every, like if you were to poll like for the past like 2 years since we got Soup Queue, we've been wanting. So I'm just curious to know, like, I get event queue is your baby, because let's be honest, it is. And I think the way Daeron was saying it'd work earlier would be really fun, and I think that's exciting. I'm just wondering is like, was priority not given to the matchmaker stuff, or do you have to basically do a little bit of a investigation before for said reasons. Is that why basically it's going to be tackled sort of at the same time, or, you know, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah, well, for the event queue itself, the scope of the design has been in flux for a while, and it's something that I've wanted to do for a while. Yeah, sure, it's my baby, but I think it's also something that a lot of players would really enjoy. I know that some people didn't enjoy the 8v8 weekend, but the stuff that the variables that I'm going to be able to play with the event queue, I think will really create a lot of value for the game overall, a lot more than what we saw with Solaris.
I did bring that up, basically the long-term objectives of it.
Yeah. So, I hear what you're saying. As far as like, oh, is the matchmaker going to be looked at? Like, I'm not committing to the matchmaker being looked at right now, but what I am saying is that this certainly highlights the issue and is something that we are going to be talking about.
Okay.
So
that's fair.
It's something that we've talked about since we started this process October last year. So it is an ongoing conversation. There are problems I'm trying to in looking at the event queue, it is like making a separate matchmaker, because one of the things that I did add to the design initially is like, well, if you're doing an event queue, you can't have it affect PSR. Like, if you're going to make Urbies with, you know, unlimited ammo and super fast reloads and like, you know, super double speed or whatever for, you know, a weekend, and people play the Urbi Derby, and that's just one example of just like,
you want to be able to screw around and not hose them in the long run. You
can't have it affect someone's PSR. And if you're doing, you know, you can make it so it's like no groups at all in that queue, and it could be exactly like quick play but with no groups if you wanted. Or you can make it groups only with this queue. So it gives us a lot of variables to play with, and it allows us to kind of take that content and all the content we have in the game and use it in new and interesting ways, but without affecting people's PSR and without affecting the main 12v12 quick play queue or faction play. So getting to that point with the design, like scoping that out and talking to the engineers and them saying, like, yeah, we think this is achievable with the amount of time we have, and adding something new to the game. Like, a lot of the features that we've had up till now, we've been just like messing with variables, so to speak. Like, if we adjust, you know, quality of life stuff constantly, we've been adding new content in terms of like, new variants and new maps, or reworking old maps or something like that, and that's adding value to the game. But it doesn't really fundamentally change the way players get to engage with that content. And I'm trying to do that with the event queue, and I feel like it will give us a lot more long-term value. But I do agree that the matchmaker is something that is, as we try and do these things, we find ourselves running up against as it being a major stumbling point to getting to that.
Yeah, I think it's just in the bigger, like, again, you guys are working with what you have. You only have engineers for X period of time. You have to prioritize what's coming first. You obviously want event queue. I just look at it as a casual player, and like how important that is for, you know, I mean, look, the game's going to be around for another 4 years, maybe even longer. We don't know. So in between now and then, and when your event queue isn't kicking off stuff, it's just one of those, like, also too, let's be very clear, when Paul made the shift to soup queue and merged everything, we haven't had any adjustments since. And so, you know, I understand priority of resources, but I don't think the community is asking for a whole lot in that case of saying like, hey, can we just have a discussion as far as like, because you guys are, I don't think you can solve like this paradoxical question that people sometimes propose is like, what's the perfect matchmaker? Like, you're going to have these perfect, but you can definitely, Daeron, I mean, you were talking about this earlier, which is, do you want a more balanced matchmaker, which I think a lot more people do, or do you want a little bit more open-endedness and it lets people do what they want? Well, we had that for years, you know, and so I feel like just a little bit of a shore up on Matchmaker to some extent, or at least to look at and have that discussion, I think would go a long way as far as like, because that's at the top of the, and look, this is just my opinion, so it doesn't mean shit. You can ask people out there, I guess. But I was just curious when I saw that
Golden's brought up many times. Like we've had these exact same discussions with them. Yeah. And I guess for me, the logic that I'm using when I prioritize something like event queue over examining the matchmaker and tuning it or trying to find additions to it that'll improve it, is that creating kind of value for the title that changes the game, that may get the people to reinstall, to check out, oh, there's this thing called event queue, and this weekend they have scouting mode in there with atlases only. It's called the Steiner Scoutlands mode, and it's kind of a derpy mode, but you go in and you get a new experience from the exact same content that you've had forever. And it's like that's something I want to do. It's like it's total driven by lore, the Steiner Scoutlands, kind of jokey, but it'd just be fun to see that, right?
Sure.
And have an event that gets rewards based on that, like because I've got a way to separate out the actual reward system, or the special event system as it's called in the back end, that says, oh, kill this many atlases, or get a kill with an atlas, and you can get this reward. So I can actually not only create a special mode, but I can give rewards exclusive to that special mode as well. And that kind of thing, I'm hoping, like fingers crossed, is that people are able to suggest modes. Like I want to share all the variables, like once the system is like more locked in, be able to share all the variables and be like, hey guys, come up with modes, like what do you guys want to see? It's an event, it's a queue that can actually be turned off as well, so it can like run for this time to this time and then stop, and then not have anything active in it at all, and it just be kind of grayed out. So it's not like it's constantly going to be drawing players from quick play, but I do want to experiment with the modes, and I do want to have like lots of fun with it. Like I play different games, my kids play lots of different games, and I see what live games are able to do nowadays. Like modern live games have a lot more variety and variables in the modes that they play. Like I play Overwatch, and there's random heroes, and like the ability for, it's just like you spawn in and it just selects a hero for you. Or my kids play Fortnite, and I watch them play all kinds of modes. It's like stuff that's like other players have created, or that kind of thing. And I think that gives a certain amount of new value to all this content that already exists in our game. But so the hope is to draw lots of players back, right? Get people like excited to like associate it with sales, associate it with events, have the event queue, have people dogpile in there. Daeron and I have been talking about it. He's got a plan for faction play as well, because we've been neglecting faction play in a lot of ways. Like it's been all about keeping quick play as populated as possible, that kind of thing. But if we can shift the focus from like quick play to the event queue to faction play and stuff, and just really theme things a lot more, I think players will get a lot more out of the game and a lot more out of the content and value there. And yes, the matchmaker, fixing the matchmaker becomes something that's like, okay, these systems are all in place now. What are we going to do to increase the quality of these matches, so that these are all working harmoniously and players feel like, oh, I'm dropping and I'm having fun because not only I'm playing my favorite mode or playing some wacky new mode, but I feel like the matches are ultimately going to be fair. So I felt like some investment upfront in the event queue will get us draw players back in, that will give us the reason, or like the justification for spending money on something that doesn't necessarily add new content to the game, but improves the overall quality of the experience.
There's a lot to unpack there. I get you guys are a business and you need to make money, because that's basically what you're saying. You're basically saying is, hey, we're going to remove Solaris because it hasn't been really good. We're going to add an event queue, potentially bring people back, which basically means more revenue. And then we can justify spending more money on the potentially quick play or faction play. But my pushback has always been, and just to be quite frank, is that your community is already doing it. And I don't think just saying like, hey, adjusting the tonnage of a group or the size of a group is really asking for much outside of that. And me and Daeron used to talk about this quite all the time, which was, it just sort of seemed like always pushing the narrative of something new instead of going back. I mean, we've had the soup queue now for quite some time, and we haven't seen any adjustment. I guess I'm not trying to dogpile on you. I'm just trying to point out that like I think all this points out is like, hey, 8v8, 12v12, it didn't change anything because matchmaker, as far as the who's being matched up against who, and that could be behind the scenes, how many groups, what group and sizes and stuff like that. To me, that's the question is like, if you're already having people look at it for your event queue, like, is that, and I asked Daeron this, is that an XML edit? And if it's not, is it an engineer? And can your engineer quickly just hash up a quick little tool that you can turn on and off and make changes? Because it'd be really cool to say in April, hey, groups are now 3v3, 3-man groups. Here's the tonnage, but you allow multiple groups, and we're doing 12v12. We're going to test it for a month and go from there. The 8v8 was too drastic. We need to make adjustments. Whatever. To me, that has bigger impact. I get like what you're saying. The event queue, it's exciting whenever it does happen because it looks like it is happening. But to me, it's just one of those things where it's like our daily in and out is quick play. That is quick match. That's what the whole game mode's for, right? Is to your daily grind. When event queue's not on, you're in here. Faction play, if you guys get to that, if you have the resources down there, that'd be cool to see some adjustments there. But like, I think your majority of your player base is in quick play.
Oh
right?
Yeah, 100%. Majority of the player base is in quick play.
I guess that's all I'm asking.
No disputing that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm saying that that's something we want to look at. It's just that we've prioritized, I guess, something else over that in terms of like available resources and development time. Just what we felt was the best option, I guess, at this particular juncture. But I'm not saying that we won't look at the other things either. So.
Okay, no, that's fair.
Yeah, it's something to be clear. Also, it's something we discuss constantly. So it's not like once every 6 months we bring up matchmaker or those kind of. We literally talk about it in every meeting we have with Cauldron.
Well, I don't think you can overhaul. Again, going back to where people have these weird expectations of like every match will end in like a 10v12, 10-12, score. My big thing is like, can you just make what's there a little bit better?
Make some minor improvements.
Yeah, like again, like obviously we've known groups have had a big impact, and we know that you just looked at that. You were able to change 12v12 to 8v8. So then the question I was asking Daeron earlier, which I don't think he knew, but maybe you do, or at least can find out, which is adding more groups or allowing more groups or changing group size and group tonnage, is that something that can be done easily? And if it can we have a discussion?
So, yeah, I mean, I was potentially going to change group size down to 2 for the weekend, and I talked to the engineer about it, and he's like, just so you know, this affects all modes. And so my biggest concern was that people who enjoy faction play, and especially on a weekend where I just dropped the main queue to 8v8 and faction play was the only 12v12 mode you could play, I did not want to have a profound effect on people trying to enjoy their faction play weekend. Kind of like I just dropped a major bomb in quick play, and then
you're saying the actual size of the match 8v8 is now 8v8 in faction play right now. You're not saying
no. If we would have changed group size to limit it to only 2, like I was saying earlier,
it would have affected faction play too.
But faction
play groups would have been 2v2
but you can do
it's like a cool.
But you can do a 12v12. No, you can do a 12-man group.
2-man group,
two-person groups.
Yeah, but you can do a 12-man group in faction play right now.
Yes, so it would have been 2-person groups limited, just like quick play. So that's the. Remember, I said there were knock-on effects. So if we would have changed 2-person limit to quick play, that would have also changed faction play to 2-person limit.
Unless we were mistaken, like because we were talking to the engineer. Like, keep in mind, some of these engineers have been on the project for a long time, and maybe and had been on the project for a long time, like 8 to 10 years. And then been on MW5, and then been on other projects.
I'm just confused.
And then
forever.
Yeah, I'm totally confused because we've had.
No, I think you might be right.
That doesn't make
this
any.
This discussion happened on the weekend, and I kind of
no, that's fine.
Bumped the engineer.
Don't apologize. Look,
we were discussing it under the context of.
Don't apologize to me, Matt.
of
stop.
like, what
I'm
can I
saying
do right now?
no. What I'm saying is things happen. It's good. We get it. That's why I've always I've liked these conversations. You guys can pop in. I'm not going to roast you. I'm going to ask you questions, but like I was just confused because like that to me it's like okay, you know, like because the change you just made would have affected faction play, and faction play still has groups of 12, so like obviously it didn't affect, you know, and like that's why I was confused. You know,
Yeah, no, it's possible that myself and the engineer were mistaken about looking at these the tunable variables.
And actually, this started off with Phil asking, "Can we tune the weight limit or the weight
tonnage
settings
limits
for
for
groups?"
groups
Is that
too. Because
tonnage limits. I don't know. That was one I didn't know. I don't know if that's an XML change. I don't know if that's something more in depth.
I've always felt that quick play, I don't think you guys can split solo and groups anymore. We don't have the numbers for that. And I think that's been a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. And I'm saying that's fine. We've had Soup Queue. The problem with Soup Queue is the control of outcome of matches. Sometimes we get a 3-man and a 2-man because we don't get a 4-man. Sometimes we get a 4-man. I've just felt that the best possible solution to that is why restrict it just to one group, and then on these exceptions have a 2-group, you know, a 2-man or a 3-man together. Why not just open it up to multiple groups and multiple solos? But then you have to make adjustments regardless. Even if you don't do any of that, the current 4-mans have so much tonnage, and I've just always felt like MWO has had this freedom of player choice over balance, and that started, by the way, when I was on my honeymoon when it was opened up to 12-man groups, and everybody was warning you guys, like back in the day. You know, obviously, Matt, you weren't designer, you couldn't control this back
Still
then.
not.
Right? Yeah, but of like, hey, just FYI, when you open that up. And how many people, I remember, because Daeron, me and you were talking about, people say they want to quit. Like, oh, if you removed the ability to drop with my friends, it's like, okay, guys, what other game allows you to basically dictate the outcome? And they're like, well, we don't always dominate. It's like, okay, you may not, but that other 12-man group who's really good players, they're fucking winning every single match. And so, you know, it's just one of those like weird things where like balance sort of went out the window for player choice. And I just look at everything. I think you're going to have different expectations, and the solution I just proposed may not, some people may just think it's stupid. My big thing is like, I think Soup Queue's here to stay. How can we best improve that? And my thing was just, how about you just open it up to allow multiple groups on the side, and then solos will just filter in when they need to, which is sort of an opt-in for group queue. People have said in this case, it would just, you keep Soup Queue the way it is. You make some adjustments to group size. Obviously 12v12 right now, you could do the 8v8 on Event Cube. People can enjoy that. But I just feel like the outcome of matches, and if you're going to reduce it down to 2 or 3-mans, the tonnage right now, I mean, when you can drop in 4 heavies and just do work, it's rough. And I feel like that's where the solo experience really just like got bashed up against the, you know, the cliff, if you will, because we already knew what was going to happen. I mean, you guys know, you play the game, coordination beats individualism, and then when you smash those two worlds together, you know, I guess I'm just trying to convey like this, I guess as a player, like I'll be selfish and say like this is my desire, but I think it's reflective of others in the community, like of, you know, 8v8 I think it doesn't solve all those other issues that me and Daeron were talking about earlier. I feel like sometimes people conflate the amount of people.
And the other thing is,
right?
to play devil's advocate, and absolutely I agree.
Thank you, NBA Jam. Much appreciated, sir.
If there's elements of the matchmaker that are broken or whatever, then, you know, I would love to see some resolution for that kind of thing. But to play devil's advocate, the other thing is, you know, I think a lot of the work we do is geared towards balance, but there's the potential for perfect balance to not be fun. Like that was again another one of our original pillars, is to make the game more fun. Yeah. And you know, obviously this game, impossible to ever achieve perfect balance. We'll never even, you know, we can work toward.
But is it fun for solos or is it fun for groups? You know,
there's again so many different variables, right? So I'm not denying anything that was just said, but also that there's that little wrench that gets thrown in too. Is that we're trying to keep it fun and exciting, and you know, whatever. So it's a lot of elements that we have to look at for everything that we consider.
Yeah. The event queue sounds fun, by the way, Matt. I was talking to Daeron. I think if you guys pull it off, I mean, I think, really, there's so much you can do with it. You know, like.
I think I'm really anxious to see what like a first Solaris weekend would be like. You know, like Division 4 Go. I want to see that engagement, see if it makes it more fun. But yeah, besides that, obviously Solaris living there's a lot of other things that I just think can be totally cool. So looking forward to that element.
Yeah, I asked for me to be able to restrict all the way down to the variant. So it may be that, you know, you say when we release the blood name pack that we would be able to do like a specific mode where it's just like
all summoners,
blood name mechs. Yeah, all summoner, or like Kit Foxes and summoners, but it could just be like those specific mechs, just for people to be able to drop and test those mechs against each other and talk about builds and stuff like that. That might be a very, very specialized case, and it may not actually be that fun, but it's just a thought, like just the idea of like, oh, when you release a pack, is there any way you can support that extra?
And this isn't gonna be an extra like lobby. It's not like you're leaving. It'll just be like normal quick play. You just click it and it starts searching for a match, right? Because like
what it's gonna have is essentially a pretty minimal interface, where you're essentially you go to drop, and if you don't have it'll describe it. You'll click on like event queue. It'll pop up. It'll be a window that says like this is the rules for event queue and this is the description. And then it'll have warnings like if the mech you select isn't valid. And then the hope is that you click on select mech button, and it'll pop up but like the mech selection screen, but filtered based on what variants are legal for the queue at that point. So if I said Atlases only, for that Steiner Scoutlands mode, you would see like, oh, okay, it just shows the Atlases that you own. And in general, I'll try and make it so that like if it's a restricted mode, that there's like a trial mech available that's valid, so that you can use those or whatever. Because I do want to make it as open as possible, but then there may be some cases where it closes it up, like saying like, oh, it's groups only, like it's 8v8 groups, and minimum group size is 4, so you have to have two groups of 4 versus 2 groups of 4. And I could restrict it to clans only, so, or you know, make it 10v10, so it's and group size is 5, so it's clan stars and stuff like that. Even though they would spawn weird in the game because there's like lances are like the predominant thing in the mode, but stars for clans is a group of 5, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you could have a mode that kind of leans into those lore-based rule sets. Yeah, so that's kind of the hope, and being able to restrict it down to the variant. I was thinking it'd be fun to do a like double jump jet, or no, like your jump jet fuel doesn't drain or something, and then just say jump jet mechs only and restrict all the mechs down to there. It'd still be up to you to make sure you actually have jump jets equipped on your jump jet mechs, but it could be pretty wild. Or like lights, 12v12 lights in Conquest with like double cap speed or something. It'd be crazy to see that. Light mechs zooming all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of variables, and we're still, like I said, gathering, more modifiers that we can use. And, certainly if people have some brilliant ideas, poke me with them. In terms of modifiers, we're open, and that's what we're working on right now.
Okay. So, but, can I have a request from you guys to where can you find out information about what I was talking about as far as the normal quick play? Can we reduce group size? Can we change
I'm going to look into that for sure, because
can we allow multiple groups?
I was we're not misinformed, but that when we looked into it on the weekend, that I thought it was going to be affecting, because I'm looking at the interface for it, and it doesn't say anything about it just affecting quick play, and I don't see any controls for groups in faction play. But it's possible that some things are exclusive to quick play, are tunable, and then something like faction play would have to be a patch. I'm not sure.
Is that, yeah, I was gonna say, so if you could find out and report back, because I feel like, again, pill to swallow, I don't think soup queue's going anywhere. I know there's a desire for, you know, group queue to come back. We don't have the population for it. I'll say it because you guys, you know, you guys don't want to say it, but I do think you can improve the current quick play, and that's something that, by the way,
no problem saying that, Phil.
Yeah, well,
no problem. We're going to go with the best option, and if going back to separate group and solo isn't the best, then obviously what we want to do is then make soup queue as good as possible.
Well, and so you can
we would have to look at where we stand and make some adjustments if we can.
Your event queue, you can literally do an 8v8 weekend, like, or whatever you want, to where people could go in there and play that. I guess I'm just wanting the best bang for your buck as well, because I mean, again, I get it. Your business, you have to make money. You want to introduce things that are potentially going to generate revenue and stuff like that. But then as a player, I have to advocate for things to happen to improve our lives too. Like, yeah, that's cool. I get it. We're excited for you as well. But hey, man, every single day we play this, and we you know. If you do have a little bit of resources and stuff like that, it'd be cool to sort of, you know, and if it doesn't require any resources, this is something you guys can change willy-nilly. Dude, you can make an entire month to just gather data. That's a good way to do it. You could literally gather all the data. You could say, for the month, this is the changes to 12v12 we're making, and we're going to collect all the data, and we'll literally just post the data, and then we'll do another month of testing, whatever. I think people are... you guys are doing stuff, and I don't think anybody would fault you for just, like, you could even post, I was telling you, Daeron, we were talking about how quick did matches kick off. Put that in a freaking pie chart and show the difference between 8v8 and 12v12 and how quickly, was there any difference, you know, and just use the data and just, you know, show people. I think a lot of people would appreciate that. And I don't think
take a look at it. I don't know what we're going to share at this point. We'll see. I think that it's, you know, the server issues we were having over the weekend is probably my top priority, like figuring out what happened there and how do we, like, kind of avoid that in the future, because it was pretty frustrating on our end to bring that happen.
I did see someone, and this is something I don't know if you guys saw, but I know you guys are going to extend the events, but someone said, I don't like the 8v8, so it was a waste of pretty much like 7 days of premium time. So that I did see that in my chat earlier. Someone did make that comment, so that maybe
they can always contact CS. So, you know, we're pretty generous in terms of that kind of stuff, but yeah, he did extend.
I think every event starts off with 7 days of free premium.
So if you extend it, just yeah, man.
I extended the event, and I can give away 7 days.
People can always also contact me, you know, if they have something like that.
If obviously the event queue, so it looks like that's happening right now. I mean, you can't promise anything as far as timeline or time event, but is this something that's going to be, you know, Q2, you know, that you're shooting for, or is this even sooner than that, you think?
Yeah, I think. What month is this? Just a sec.
March. It's about to be April.
March, right? So like,
end of
one's almost done.
Right now we've got our April patch that we're working on, and we'll probably give you guys more updates in the devlog. But I don't have a landing date for the event queue, but I don't have unlimited resources for unlimited amount of time. So if it doesn't get done soon, it doesn't get done. Right? So. It's all a matter of, like, I don't know where it's going to land, because we're going to need to do some testing on it. They're in the development process. There needs to be UI work and UI design, and just from this weekend, we're going to have probably a few things that we're going to need to discuss of, like, can we do this in the event? Can we do that? Like, are these issues going to be present there? And we may even, you know, divert some time to looking at what the current matchmaker situation is in groups, just to make sure that we're up to speed 100%, because like I said, over the weekend I was going to drop the group size down and quick play to 2, maximum so that it reflected better on 8v8, and people would have more fun, because that, to me, I saw as one of the chief complaints, and it immediately got put into the design of the event queue, which is
33%
like, what do we do
50%.
with groups in the event queue?
Yeah, 33 to 50, and really depending on what skill level you are, that 33 and 50 is even really a miss. You know, again, you take top 4 really good comp players that drop and they don't run into another comp, you know, that 50% is not really 50. It's pretty much 99.9%, you know, analytically. So yeah, like I said, I think if setting expectations of like, I don't think you can make this perfect matchmaker. And it's, by the way, Daeron and I have talked about this. Matchmaker is literally the #1 topic of every competitive first-person shooter, like every single one out there. So
yeah, we're not alone in this.
You're not alone.
No.
Yeah, and I think if you guys just having conversations like this, like I said, I'll get this up on YouTube so people can listen to it, is good, just because so people can understand where you're coming from. And like I said, from a personal standpoint, I'm super passionate. I've had to take a step back and like fucking reevaluate myself and be like, look, these guys are working, they're doing the best they can. Don't get frustrated at them. And so that's why, you know, I've reached out and, hey, can you guys talk and just chat? Because there are things happening and I want these conversations to help, but I also don't want it to just be just my perspective. Like maybe, just maybe, other people agree. Like, hey, I think adjustments to matchmaker would be like my #1 thing because I play every single day. I don't know if that would be the same.
Oh,
like,
I'm again
right?
gonna
So,
say, I'm gonna reiterate, we're completely aware of the problem with suit queue and the influence of 4-person groups, and we're completely aware of the potential matchmaker issues. Again, like I said, we talk about these things constantly.
Yeah.
It's not something that we talk about once every 3 months. It is every meeting we are talking about this stuff, and it can get passionate. I can get upset in these discussions, but there's so many factors that go into what we're working on, what decisions are being made, besides just, an emotional response or whatever.
Yeah.
But we're completely aware that we're not oblivious to this stuff.
I'm excited for that other part of the conversation that Daeron was you didn't get into details, but to me, faction play has the potential to really, like, I've wanted to play faction play from the start, but the faction play that we got was not enjoyable whatsoever to me. But that is something to be said of what do current faction players like, and outside of bigger groups, but like whatever that is, moving forward to definitely try to capture some of the stuff they like. But the event queue, I think that'll be fun. I think I could definitely dive in. But to me, faction play, depending on how much work, if you have the resources, what's there, blah, 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 could have some pretty cool, again, the moon, I can shoot for the moon, but like, doesn't matter. It depends on what you guys are capable of with the resources. So that would be I'm looking forward to that conversation. So
Bill says, Captain Colt, thank you for the raid.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt the conversation. I do appreciate it, man.
God, that almost felt like streaming. I haven't, how long it's been since I've streamed?
You streamed?
I heard somebody said I did.
Someone said. So while I have you guys here, Matt, is there anything else, and even if you repeat something that Daeron said, is there anything else that was on top of your mind, or is there something else that? And no apologies. I'm sick and tired of those. I don't need them.
Apologizing.
He wasn't queued up to apologize.
I felt it. It was like a disturbance in the force.
No, I wasn't. I am not.
Or it was gas.
Here's the thing: is
it
like
could be
ultimately, yeah. I guess the one thing is it's like Daeron and I are like, I know the communication thing has fallen off certainly, but Daeron and I have been working our fucking asses off, man. Like just it sounds ridiculous because you guys may not see it, but like hopefully in the coming months you guys will see all the effort that the team is putting in and stuff. Like I'm really looking forward to this new map that comes out.
You got Ferret to come back and crew, so
yeah, that's good. Here's the thing: this next patch has a new map in it for quick play, right? We added a new map last year. We reworked a bunch of maps. So Francois is like a machine at this point, and I knew that he was going to have to start out slow, moving spawn points around, changing time of day, getting used to the systems, right? Like anytime you come onto a new project, anytime you're dealing with new tech or dealing with old tech, like in the case of our engine, and finding out all the weird intricacies. Like sometimes he'll go a few days like I can't even work because this map is totally crashing, and then we try and pull people back. So Francois is like, and like it's difficult sometimes. Francois is killing it, and I'm so stoked for the maps. Mark is killing it with the new mechs and stuff, and it's like we've got some exciting stuff coming up on the mech front, and it's like I can't wait to announce that stuff. And so I still feel like I was bummed with the roadmap because I tried to pull it back and be conservative and then over deliver, and like that got a really strong response from everybody being like, it's like the game's dead now, we're banning it. It's like, I'm holding my tongue on all the shit holding our tongue on all this stuff we're working on, because last year we way overpromised and we delivered like 30% of it, right? So it's like overcorrected or something like that, but it is what it is at this point. And
again, like I said,
I can't wait to really share more of those things. So that's where I'm at. That's what I want people to know, is that like, thank you for coming back, thank you for reinstalling, thank you for playing on the AV8 weekend. Story we haven't communicated as well as much as we wanted to, but we are working behind the scenes.
You guys are
1000%.
Well, you guys have
lots of stuff.
You guys have already committed. You're doing an event queue. I mean, so that's something that you need to add to the, whether or not when it comes out, that's something you can add to your roadmap.
Like some of the TBDs there, right? And even with the Cauldron, like working with the Cauldron, I mentioned Mark, I mentioned Francois, I gotta mention Indy too, because Indy's been killing it working with them, and I've been touching base with them on some of these designs, some of the other things that we're doing that are coming up that I hope you guys like.
I
really hope you like.
We should shout out to the Cauldron too, because these guys are doing free work, and they've been doing it for a very long time, and the amount of effort they put into it is significant.
Last year would not have been as good without them. Like all the mech changes and stuff we made, like all the quirks and stuff like that, like just wholesale.
And we understand,
from them, weapon tuning.
They've done a lot, and there is some people out there that think it's not, they have an alternate perspective or whatever, and think that the Cauldron have biases or whatever, and they, I get a lot of, just listen to what I say, here's the fix. I'll get an email that's 10 pages long on how to fix MW. I get those regularly. We understand that to some people they're going to have disagreements in the direction of things, but we've made the decision that this is the best direction for now and the best method to do it, and there's a lot of reasons for that. You can't, when you're designing a game, you can't just haphazardly, take design input from 360 degrees, like you have to have a goal, you have to have a vision, you have to have the kind of commitment and dedication that a group like the Cauldron can provide.
That's
not to say that we don't take input from all kinds, from 360 degrees. We do constantly. I said, I have an email chain that I get every day that updates me on all the suggestions, and so
keep in mind they don't always agree in the Cauldron too. I think a lot of people don't really understand.
Sure, there's
arguments. The arguments, but also too is like they're trying to look at it as objectively as they can. And they are biased. Everyone brings a bias.
Everybody does, right? But there's
checks and balance
within the Cauldron.
Yeah, they a lot of the times
players, there's assault players, there's
But here's the thing: is any shade thrown at that group, one, I think it's ignorance in the form of they just literally don't know. But also two is they need a scapegoat for whatever frustrations, and those frustrations are valid sometimes. Like again, if you're getting stomped in game, if you're you tune in for the weekend to drop casually, next thing you know you're getting stomped by a 4-man group in an 8v8 queue, you didn't know anything about it. I understand that's frustrating, but my point being is, again, who's the boogeyman? And sometimes if it's now that you guys aren't doing the balance directly, now we can point our laser beams at someone else. I can tell you that being a part of the Cauldron in the past and just listening and reading the discussions, there's not a wholesale agreement, and they go back and forth, and the end result is, in my opinion, just like how most things should be, is it's a balance of let's compromise and go in the middle. And sometimes they overshoot. We've seen that time or time again where they'll over adjust. I do think that goes back to an interesting point someone made about ammo. That's another big thing. Remember, I was telling you about not only 8v8. 8v8's more work just because I think some of the quirk changes are more geared towards 12v12. And this is actually a very good point that I was pointing out, which is if you're giving a mech quirk for ammo, that means they don't have to invest in ammo, which means free tonnage for potentially firepower, heat, or whatever. On reversal, if you have 8v8, now you have so much ammo, and those mechs are more deadly because they don't have to worry about ammo count. It's the reverse, right? And so not only, again, we're talking about spawn locations, all that, but 8v8, I think, is, in my opinion, is a big. I think the game is designed right around it. All the stuff has been designed around. All the quirk changes in the past year and a half have been
for sure is our core
12v12.
mode. We're not changing that. Like I have zero intention of changing that, and that was one of the things that I saw really that it was like, oh, okay, we didn't communicate that clearly on the forums, is people reacting to it as if, this is what we're changing the game to, and I can see now like how some of the language can be interpreted that way, but really it was just for the purpose of changing things up for the weekend, gathering some metrics and gathering some input that
now we know because
the event queue.
Yep.
And it certainly significantly got some attention, negative attention, positive attention.
Yeah.
500.
It created major discussion
on the thread at this point. Some of those are 25 of them is by one person, but like
But
we see you.
But that's sort of my point of like how I again, I just have to reiterate, like I feel like that's why it's such a hot topic button issue, is because we do, you guys don't play the game every single day. We do. And, we want to, this game's going to be around for another few years. We want to be able to ride it out in the sun, and so making small adjustments like that, I think go a long way to show faith as well, just to say like, hey, you guys are buying the packs we're asking you to, like, here's a dog bone, like sort of thing. And
Cauldron's been iterating for a year, right? I mean, that.
Oh, on quirks? No. I'm saying
just on all the stuff that they're
matchmaker. I'm saying matchmaker. Just adjustments, and even.
I thought you were just talking about in general.
No. The quirks. Yeah. And you also confirmed, Matt. He did confirm this. He said quirk colorization's happening, so you got to put that on the roadmap now.
Who said that?
Darren did.
I mentioned it. Color coding.
He's
like, I'm just gonna talk to Phil. I'm not gonna tell them anything. But no,
I
all the beat.
Look, this is how I get it out of him.
Exactly.
No, you said number one. You said more about the special event queue than I did. I was trying to remain vague.
As Phil said, that's my baby.
This is like a couple arguing. So
and you have the beautiful baby, and the color coding I thought was already announced, so I didn't know that I was free range.
Dun. We got one, boys. Sorry. We're getting it. It's on the roadmap. It's right here.
Well, but like I said, that's just a quality of life thing, and it's not going to be game-changing or anything.
Can I ask you guys a hard question? This is going to be a hard one, and this is a prioritization, but I want to hear your honest thoughts on it, because knowing limited resources and hearing that you guys are obviously doing event queue, you're looking at potentially faction play adjustments. Again, I need to ask you guys, I think it's a serious question, but do you think skill tree's priority, or do you think you can just keep it as is, make adjustments, or even just keep it as is, and it's really, the reality of it is what it is, and we'd rather just focus on bigger ticket items? Can I throw you
that? Matt. I'm not gonna say anything.
I don't know, man. Like,
if it's too early,
is that we have a design to change the skill tree, and we've had a few iterations of it. Everything that we really think players would want quickly becomes very far out of scope and very problematic for us. and for the game and for, just for a lot of different reasons. So what we do have is we have our let's call it skill tree reconfigured design.
Okay.
And we've collaborated with the Cauldron with them on this. And the biggest, we have very clear goals and our reasons for why we would want to change the skill tree. And I think that a lot of people, rightly so, we're very frustrated with what the skill tree became. So we do have a design that improves it. And I think improves it, but I think that there's going to be I think it's a risky thing.
Okay.
Because people are going to be a lot oh, you did this and you should have done that.
Okay. So
I'm really concerned about doing that work and having it blow up in our face.
Okay. So that being said, again, it goes back to I think sometimes the realities here. That looking at that, with that knowledge in hand, would it be fair to say then, is there other ways to go about this from an economic standpoint, not money standpoint? I'm saying in-game. That skill tree was designed for excessive dumping of C-bills and XP, right? That's, you can unlock. Could you guys think about a different way where either your C-bill earnage across the board is, I don't know, less per match, or mechs cost a little bit more, but then the skill tree is completely free and it's not I'm spitballing here. What I'm saying is, I think I've realized that from your guys' narrative of, you guys already have your focus. Could you, sorry. Yeah, not a problem. Could you look at the skill tree and say, hey, this isn't something we can tackle, but the issues are, it's a huge, imagine, if you will, if you came in right now, right? It's a problem for new players, but even existing players. But imagine if it was free or reduced XP or C-bills, and then you compensate. I because what I'm talking about is your economy in game. I don't know if anybody actually worries about that anymore. I don't know. But is there a different way to approach it?
I don't worry about the economy in the sense of how many C-bills a player may have and whether I want to try and create some sort
make
of
them
expense.
grind more for stuff.
Yeah,
that's
no,
what
I
that's
think
what I'm
grinding's the thing of the past. You guys have seen the changes that Daeron and I have made to some of these packs and stuff. We've started including GSP for early adopters and that kind of stuff. And I think that that's comes with the mindset.
We've also extended the early adopters. We're very consumer minded.
Yeah, where it's what's the best experience here? It's buying a mech and it not functioning out of the gate, and you gotta earn the skill points, or if you've just dropped $20 on a pack, here's skills to get you, or GSP to get you halfway or all the way there for some of the mechs, and halfway there for all the mechs, or all the way there for a couple of the mechs in the pack, and then you can start enjoying them right away. That's kind of the mentality that we've been taking on. And then you'll also notice that I've been giving GSP away like it's candy in the events as well, because I do realize that we have two kinds of players in this game. Some that people that have been here forever, and then there's people that are just joining us for the first time. And the skill tree represents a really big gap, not only in knowledge, but in just their ability to play and enjoy the game and enjoy the mechs.
But I will say we have reduced costs in our design. I mean, part of our design plan is...
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
As part of the skill tree redesign, we did reduce... Is it 40%?
Yeah, it's a significant reduction. And again, Matt and I never go hey, how can we make them grind for C-bills? It's...
Sure, because that's what that design was, right? And we went away from the three of a kind to that. And I just wonder if you're not as worried about the economy, and again, just tossing it out there, whether the C-bill cost was reduced, if that's not what you're wanting, or you could put it into other stuff where it's hey, we're going to reduce by 50% here, and we're going to increase mech prices by, I don't know, or whatever.
We're not concerned with the economy. We can't make it vanish. It still has to exist. We're not concerned with it. It may bite us in the ass in some unknown way.
Phil,
yes.
Can you do me a favor? So right now, you've got this really slick looking mech. Do you have the platinum mechs?
No, I don't.
Okay. So this guy's got a nice shine on him, right? So go drop in testing grounds and go into Canyon Network really quick. I want to show people like what we were talking about when we talked about adding environment probes.
Oh yeah, Daeron mentioned
maps.
that earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. So
environment probes. Thank you.
That's what they're. I thought it was I thought it was point lighting. So yeah.
No, environment probes are they essentially create a cube map. So go F5 and just pop it and take a look at your Mac here. So right now he's got shininess to him and he's got some reflectivity of the environment. So that's all generated from one little tiny cube map that gets added to the game. So if you guys see this, go walk over in the shadow, like so you're fully shadowed, or you actually might be mostly shadowed right now. But just make sure you're totally in shadows, and then go into the light, and you can see on the mech. It's what happens is the environment probes provide partial lighting for the mech to give that kind of bounced lighting look to it,
regardless if they're in the shadows or not.
Yeah. So quit out of this match and then go into another map, and I'll show you what it looks like without environment probes.
Yeah, we were talking about. I thought it was point lighting, but point lighting is a little bit different.
No, it's actually just a cube map. it's ridiculous that it wasn't in the levels. So I think some of the level designers in the past weren't aware of it, and I don't think.
What would be a map
So
that doesn't have it?
Viridian Bog.
River City.
Well, let me turn
River
shadows.
City. Yeah, go to River City.
Let me turn shadows up because I have shadows on low because of performance. So let me turn those up for you guys. And shading. I'll turn shading up as well.
Read and accepted.
Bad Bet, thank you for becoming a sub, dude. Much appreciated, man. Thanks for supporting me here. Hope you're enjoying the
So
conversation.
would you like the platinum mechs?
I'll buy them. Yeah, I'll buy them. Thank you for asking.
So drop into River City.
River City.
Fourth one there.
There's no performance cost with lighting, Naveed? Is that
No, I mean, it exists in some maps. All it is really is a small texture that gets applied as a cube map. So go into the shadow there. I don't think you really need to change your settings there because the shadows are pretty...
Oh, now I have shadows. More shadows.
Yeah, so go stand in that shadow there.
Yep.
And you'll notice even right now out of the gate, so pop F5 for a second there.
You're super dark.
So he's super dark, right? And what we found when we did the platinum mechs, which were very, very, very dependent on environment probes, is that we realized that they were like black in this map. If you had a platinum mech, I would have gotten you to drop in this in a platinum mech and show people what the difference is. But if you look at it, compare that to what it looks like in the Shadows of Canyon networks, it's completely different.
Okay.
So those environment probes that we updated was really just an object that Francois went in, dropped it in the map, generated environment probes, saved out those maps, saved out those cube maps.
That's why polar and stuff used to be just were like a black smudge,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yep.
And on sun, okay.
And it just overall makes the map look better. Like it's just...
Yeah. Someone's saying like no matter how good it looks, if you can't have fun matching quick play, it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's completely separate things, right? Like you can have a team of like however many people we have, and
we're not taking Francois away from matchmaker design.
Yeah, exactly. So there's it's always people counterpointing things that aren't really counterpoints because, and I'm not saying it to be rude at all, but like you obviously work in an industry that I have no idea about, but we work in an industry that a lot of people have opinions about, but fundamental understanding of how development work is that like Francois adding these things does not take away from anything engineering wise at all. Like he's just improving the maps, like that's his job. Yeah, simulated PBR reflections. So it doesn't use don't use real ray tracing. Yeah, exactly. Like if you're up on the latest engine technology and you're keeping an eye on Unreal Engine 5, they've got Lumen, which is really similar to what RTX has been trying to do as well, but it's just kind of like not dependent on a chipset like the solutions are for video cards. But Lumen creates a real-time cube mapping and then uses that to light the scene. So it's 3D technology, how we fake lighting, how we fake all this stuff. It was present in CryEngine, but because various different level designers worked on various different maps, for whatever reason, some maps were missing that object. Some of them had them in there, but they were generated from a different time of day. So if you go into Crimson Strait, it was generated in a specific time of day settings, and then we changed the time of day settings so that the actual cube map is more reflective of a different time of day. Reflective, which is kind of a bit of a pun there, or double meaning, but it affects the lighting based on what the time of day would be. So if we change the time of day to nighttime, you'd want to update your cube maps in real time, and that's why Lumen is so cool, is because they can change the time of day and then have that cube maps update as well. A bit of a pun from Matt. Yeah, exactly. Go figure.
On his day off, by the way, I'd like to point out. Matt's chilling on his day off here, but I need to go anyway. Like I said, I'm sick. I need to get a little. I'm gonna get some soup or something like that. And Matt needs to have some day off.
Yeah, I'm gonna go feed my kids. They're on spring break, and we're gonna go have some chow.
Nice.
Yeah, Daron,
Poutine, of course,
Matt,
right?
Thank you for hanging out. Of course, the national treasure up there. Thanks for the information.
Thanks
for
Shijumi.
answering the questions. If you guys have any more questions, hit them up on the forums, Discord. They're usually on like every Discord as well. I'll make sure to get this up on YouTube as well and post over Reddit so people can get some information. But yeah, man, look forward to doing this again.
EJ, this was totally random. Phil just said, "Hey, do you want to come on and hang out?"
It's the best podcast. This is basically a podcast. That's how I think it's better that way. You just go in, you just talk instead of.
I woke up this morning not planning on doing this, so there was no time to make an announcement and have a bullet list and so forth.
Yep.
But
you
certainly
get the real
that
answers.
is what we'll do. That will be the devlogs. That's exactly what the devlogs are
I
for.
told you, just let me know. I'll sit down.
No, we tried to do a lot more with the devlogs before, and like have video and.
I don't think you have time. That's where
but
third party
like,
comes in. That's where what we used to do for you guys.
Yeah,
I mean that's just the reality.
Yep. It gets difficult. It's you decide between doing that or doing other things that need to get done in order to get this stuff out the door. But yeah, thanks Phil.
Yep.
And thanks everybody for playing and participating in the 8v8 weekend. If you did participate, if you didn't, and we read all your feedback, and it definitely is going to be productive for the future. The game's not going to 8v8 at all. It's going to be 12v12 in the quick play queue, and we've heard your guys' concerns about Matchmaker, and yeah, so we will.
Hey, Pug Lord, I've done a barn full of alpaca shit. I feel your pain. Also, to address people who were asked about George will never, ever, ever, ever do a live thing like that. The only way we can ever work with George is scripted. I've tried for 9 years. He's not, he just can't
spitball like
he
that.
likes a script in front of him.
Not, yeah.
So, but now if we do something like a cool event, Solaris in the event queue system, we could certainly maybe do like a promo with George or something like that. But
we needed some George Warhorns. That's what we need.
He's in there finally. He's in the one that says the Stalker one. Get out of here, Mechwarrior. That's
George.
Did
we use George for that?
We used George.
No way. Oh yeah, Mechwarrior. No. Okay, he was in there. That was based off of old stuff we had. So we cut that together, right? We didn't record that new.
No. That was from Mech5. I don't know where that came from. Yeah,
no, it was from Mechwarrior Online, but it was like from something we had previously recorded.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway,
you guys have a good one. Yep.
Good chatting with you. Thanks,
Phil.
Phil.
Sounds good.
Right.
Laters.
Bye.